people love memes and they have comedic value and all that and satirical value. At least some of them do. Some of them are stupid. But um, here you got a guy reading the U.S. tax code, and then you got some looks like a lady holding that looks like a book that you put in a dollhouse or something, um, like a scale model of a book. And the obvious point of the thing is, some people get a little verbose about writing a backstory. One, quickly, but I believe that this really illustrates the hyper exaggeration that comes with a lot of discourse and criticism in gaming. It's not, well, maybe that's a little too involved. It's a NASA level simulation that makes the game unplayable. There's there's never any subtlety to criticism. They just turn it up to 11 and make everything sound like it's the most tedious, boring, and difficult thing ever to do. And then they scratch their heads and go, why can't we get new people to play war games or RPGs? Wonder why. Um, but sure, there's a medium. There's somewhere in between the two that gives players a little bit of a vibe on the world they're about to uh, be part of, gives them a little clue on what to do. You know, having no backstory is like putting somebody in a trunk and having them shipped to a foreign nation they've never heard of. Okay, how'd you get there? I don't know. I just appeared. I don't know anything about any of this. I'll just wander around asking questions until I get some information. And that only works because most RPGs have basic or common. If it was, if you were trying to be truly immersive and tryly, I hate to use the word because I think it's silly and exaggeratory, but simulationist, um, you'd be in a world where, or a country where nobody speaks your language, and it'd be a little rough at first. So, but you might not even know what language they're speaking, even if you can't understand it. At least if you had a tourist pamphlet, oh, they speak Portuguese. Okay, well that's at least now I can go buy the proper translator or something. Uh, so there's it gets a little bit comically absurd to me, some of these criticisms and the discourse. But I think that what you should be doing, my advice and the way I do it is, I have a backstory, and it's not that tax code book. I don't know if that's a tax code book, but I bet you it is. Um, but not that giant, but fairly large. But I don't give that to the player. I tried that once. Yeah. And so what I do is I synopsize it into something palatable that gives an introduction to the world, gives a little bit of a vibe about what the world's about. It you know, it's a lead in, and just enough to get people, okay, so we know where we're at, and they have some idea what kind of choices they want to make once the play starts. And then I keep the big one as kind of a tome of lore that I can apply in different places when needed, especially for people who are always bitching about murder hobos and I hate the combat. Okay, well if you want some non-combat puzzle solving or mystery or whatever, why not peel it right from the pages of the lore instead of going and buying some book that has a bunch of a la carte tropes or 101 adventure hooks and all that sort of stuff, where you have to, graft it in and do all this work to make it fit into your world. Instead, just use your own imagination and your own knowledge of the world that you created from that imagination to make the adventures. It just all seems to, it's the difference between a smooth coat of paint and a little, painting in dots that are disjointed, and it doesn't, looks like a Salvador. Not that that art isn't got its place in culture. I'm not, but it looks like a Salvador Dali or a Picasso when you want some more of a realist painting, something clear that your players can immediately say that's a bunch of people walking in a park with parasols on the riverbank or something like that. Um, so that's the way I would approach it and do approach it, and it works real well. Um, the other thing about making a large backstory, even if you don't share it with the players, is you can you can use that to, like I say, make your own modules, your own one-offs, your own campaigns. You you have a reference to always go back to expand the world or change it. You know, you can have never be the same campaign twice. Uh, so it gives you, and if you're one that makes the after action reports, I don't remember what campaign logs or whatever, that tome will help. It just becomes. Plus, you got your own work. Then you can put that tome on your shelf and say, "That's my Greyhawk. That's my, you know, my own not that you're copying Greyhawk, but the inference of saying my Greyhawk is my world that I made up, and I can apply it wherever I want. Maybe you can take that tome that you wrote and say, I'm going to put it in Savage Worlds now, whereas before I was doing it with D&D or something like that. You build up a reference library of your own material if you make a larger backstory. And again, when I say larger, I'm not talking about the guy on the left large.